Hello and everyone, welcome to this Crowdfund Sport webinar. I'm Tilly from Crowdfunder. For obvious reasons, we cannot hold our workshops on location at the moment, so we're bringing them from our homes straight into your homes. Hopefully by the end of today's workshop, you'll leave knowing more about crowdfunding and the Active Together Fund to prepare you to crowdfund for your sport organisation. At the end, you'll be sent a link to the Learn platform, which will show you how to crowdfund, giving you the tools to raise money to make your idea happen. So just some quick housekeeping points to let you know before we start. We've allowed 30 minutes for today's session. It might take a little bit longer than that or less, depending on any chat or questions that we have. If you do want to ask a question, please type them in the chat box to the right of your screen, and we'll try and make sure we get all of them answered during today's live session. As you're probably aware, most of us are working from home, so anything can happen. Our internet connection might drop out, you could hear a dog barking in the background, please bear with us. And finally, in case any of you are sat there wondering if anyone else can see you, they can't, don't worry. You can all see us, but we cannot see you. So today we're going to hear from our dedicated crowdfund sport coach, Chloe. And we're also going to hear from someone who's crowdfunded before. So we'll find out what worked with their campaign and what didn't in making their campaign a success. Now, without further ado, let me introduce Chloe. Chloe, are you there?
Hello.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
I'm really well. How are you?
Yes, good. I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, Chloe. So for those of you who don't know, can you tell us a little bit more about crowdfunding?
Sure. So crowdfunding is a great way of raising money and awareness for your organisation through engaging with the community. You'll set up a page on our online platform in which you should talk about who you are as an organisation, the impact that COVID has had on you as an organisation or why you're crowdfunding. And you should make sure that you add lots and lots of imagery as well. So, sorry, I've just clicked on the wrong slide there. So it's really important that you get a really good page together before applying for any extra funding. And on that slide, you're able to add lots of images, lots of videos, and you'll also be able to add rewards to your page. This is a nice example of a crowdfunder campaign that have successfully crowdfunded with us in the past. Hythe Cricket and Squash Club, they set up a page on our online platform. They put loads of detail about who they are as a club, why they're crowdfunding. They had lots of pictures of members of the club and the community as well. And they had a great video to sort of pitch the campaign to the local community. They also used the option of adding rewards to their campaign. So not only were they encouraging donations from those that are already supporting them as a club, but they also could appeal to the wider community. So they spoke to local businesses. As you can see here, they had Aldi vouchers, they had a gardener for the day, they had a luxury massage. This is a really good way of getting pledges from those outside their immediate network. They also thought about club members as well. They enabled people who were used to or knew about the facilities to hire them out for maybe parties. They had coaching sessions, one-on-one sessions with the experts as well. So they really tried to engage with the whole community rather than just internalizing it to those in their immediate network. Now, here at Crowdfunder, we have teamed up with Sport England. And as part of this partnership, we have aimed to help sports organisations overcome the effects of of COVID-19. And as part of that initiative, we have the amazing Active Together Fund. Amazingly, we have already given away £1 million to sports organisations around the UK. And as a result, Sport England have released an extra £1.5 million, which is just phenomenal. So there's £2.5 million available to sports clubs around England. Each club can receive a maximum of £10,000 towards their campaign, up to a maximum of 50%. That depends on sort of where you are in England. If you're in a community that if your organisation is focused on the BAME community and so on. To be eligible, you must be a not-for-profit organisation that brings sport and activity to the community. Now, let me show you how it works. So you will set up your campaign. And as I say, you must make sure that your campaign page is looking spot on before applying for Sport England extra funding, because they do assess both your application form and your project page. So make sure that you've got lots of information, lots of images, nice video, and those rewards that are targeted towards the community. You'll start crowdfunding, and once you reach 25% and your required supporter numbers, that's when you'll see the pledge come onto your page from Sport England. I say required supporter numbers, and that totally depends on what your target is. So you'll see in the table on the bottom there that if your target is, let's say, £10,000 to make my life a bit easier, you need at least 50 supporters. So you've got 50 supporters and you've raised at least 25%. And that's when Sport England will make a pledge onto your campaign. You then need to keep going in order to reach that 100%, but that pledge goes towards your target. So it helps you along the way and gives you an extra push in the middle of your campaign. Once you've reached 100% of your target, that extra funding is secure. You can then go on to add a stretch target to really encourage your crowd to keep supporting you. Now, you guys are an advantage here because sport actually crowdfunds really, really well. And that makes sense to me because crowdfunding is all about the community getting together and cheering for a common goal. And I think the same can be said about sport. I've used this slide to give you an example of some of the projects that have successfully crowdfunded with us. And you will see absolutely everything on there, from rugby and cricket to gymnastics to archery, and some charities that promote activity on there as well. That's all from me for the time being. Tilly, I'm going to hand back to you.
Thank you, Chloe. Wow, what an incredible fund. That sounds amazing, and it sounds as though that's helped, thousands and thousands of sports clubs and individuals across the UK. Amazing. So next up, we're going to hear from a successful project owner, Chrissy, who is going to tell us all about her crowdfunding journey for the 3-Pillar project. But first, let's watch a video to see what that project is all about.
At 3Pillars project, we work with young people in the community and young people that have been in prison or have recently been released from custody. We provide a range of mentoring and training opportunities for these people so that they can improve their life chances and can make positive opportunities open up for themselves.
So we use a combination of mentoring, sports and rugby to particularly engage young people who are in prison or currently coming out of prison, or also those that are quite susceptible or vulnerable to engaging in crime. And because we use sport as that hook to initially engage them, and then once they're in, we can then kind of signpost them and feed them into more life skills, more generic life skills. So CV building stuff, interview skills, work placements, just stuff that would allow a young person who may have been a part of the prison system, you know, that smooth transition into the real world, if you will.
We also work with young people in the community who might be at risk of being involved with the criminal justice system themselves. And so we don't seem to label anyone at an early stage, but we recognise that by providing really positive, strong role models, particularly through sport, that we can possibly lead people in a more positive direction than they might be led if they perhaps didn't have these positive male role models in their lives. Like everyone else, COVID has massively impacted our finances. We can't escape that. Approximately half our income before it hit was coming from events and fundraising events like marathons or barbecues or quizzes. We had a dinner planned. All of this has had to be cancelled. So it's now even more important than it was before that we find other ways to raise money so that we can bring brilliant mentors and we can train really good coaches to come and deliver these programs to the young people we work with.
What's your part in our plan? First of all, you can help us by donating from your own resources. Secondly, you can advertise us through your own networks and get them to support us. But do recognise the importance of the time and the effect and the impact it has on both the young men that we're working with, their families and the community at large. That's what we're asking you to support.
Wow, what an incredible project. How inspiring was that? So now we're going to hear from Chrissy. Chrissy, hi.
Hi.
Oh, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here. Thanks for having us on.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. So, Kristen, your project raised over £29,000 from 232 supporters this October. How fantastic. So before we get going, audience members, I just want to quickly say, if you've got any questions for Chrissy, please type them in the chat box and we'll answer them in a few minutes. So Chrissy, thanks again for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit more about your project?
Yeah, absolutely. So 3Pillars project it's a sports community with a difference. We use rugby, boxing and fitness basically to get alongside young men that need our support. So we work in custody and we also work with young men who have just been released from prison and with young people in the community who are at risk of entering the criminal justice system. Okay. So we're based in Lambeth, but we work in several prisons, young offenders institutes around the country as well. So we have a rugby and fitness program that we take into prisons. But then we also have a fitness program that we do for those people coming out of prison and supporting young people in the community.
Amazing. Wow, what a fantastic idea. Can you tell us next a little bit about why you decided to crowdfund?
Great question. We actually decided to crowdfund partly because we attended this webinar but a few months ago. We've always looked at it and I think we've been slightly overawed by it, but the opportunity to get supported funding from Sport England, the waived fees at the moment during COVID, and the fact that it was more than just raising money. Our income was really, really badly hit by COVID because we normally run several events through the summer and the spring from our supporters, and we couldn't do that this year. But it was also a chance to tell people that actually we're still delivering, we're still supporting people, and we saw it as an opportunity to both raise those crucial funds that we couldn't raise because of COVID, but also to tell people, look, we're still working, we're still supporting people, and we want you to know that we're still delivering. So that's why we decided to take the plunge.
Amazing, fantastic. And what did you, when you ran your project, what did you kind of find most difficult about crowdfunding, would you say?
For us, keeping up the momentum. I suspect everybody has an initial surge and then it sort of tails off. We had a 4-week project, so it was keeping up that momentum every day, keeping up that trickle of giving coming in.
Amazing. Yeah, we kind of see this time and time again. We do tend to see those kind of peaks of interest right at the start and at the very end. But yeah, remaining motivated in the weeks 2 and 3 can be, tricky. What did you find kind of worked best for you guys during weeks 2 and 3?
So it was just a question of that personal reach out a lot for us. So a personal reach out, using emails, using all of our social media, and just keeping at it. And actually we realized, because we had another massive surge towards the final week, that all that effort would put into to our updates on the site, to emailing people, to our social media updates, so that actually just been building in people's mind, and they had been following it and watching it. So that's kind of how we got around it.
Amazing. I guess there's always supporters that decide to support your project right at the very last minute. And like you said, they probably have been sat there waiting for the right moment. And it's just sometimes a case of just reaching out to them and giving them that little nudge. And yeah, that can kind of see you over the final week, can't it? So in terms of your campaign, how did you kind of divide up the workload? Was there someone else on your team? Was it just you? How did you do it?
It was a great team effort. We're quite a small team, so there's me who's full-time, we've got CEO who's kind of part-time, then we've got 2 other part-time staff. So it was a question of everybody. We had a morning meeting at the beginning of every day, and it was sort of, we had a plan and we just divvied up. So somebody would look at social media one day, somebody would look at the emails one day, somebody would look at kind of all the materials that need gathering. So it was kind of a divide and conquer approach.
Amazing. And do you think that kind of worked well with your campaign?
I think it worked really well, and I think it was needed as well, because it is a sustained effort over 4 weeks. So I think having the whole team buy-in is crucial.
Absolutely. And I guess delegating different roles to different people means you can kind of focus on a role that's important to you. That's really great advice. So kind of our final question to our audience for you today is, what advice would you give someone who is perhaps not sure if they want to crowdfund or is a bit on the fence about it?
Absolutely do it. It's the best thing we've done all year. I think not just from a funding perspective, but in terms of reaching out to people, making new connections as well. So many people got in touch because they saw the crowdfunding campaign who hadn't not seen us before. And it's widened our network, but it's also encouraged us in our work and how we do it. So I'd say absolutely do it. And it does change your entire approach to funding. So definitely do it.
Amazing. Oh, thank you so much, Chrissy. We've had lots and lots of questions come in from our audience members. So I'm going to just sift through them and check which ones are for you. We've had some that have come in for our crowdfund coach, Chloe, but questions that are for you, Chrissy. Bear with me. So, Chrissy, in terms of your rewards, what kind of rewards did you offer as part of your project, and how did you kind of come up with those?
So we had a mixture of, ours are quite sports related. So we had a reasonable amount of kind of 3Pillars kit stash. We had some rewards, so some rugby clubs and like England Sevens donated some signed kit, but we also had things like trays of brownies. For us generating our rewards, it was a question of reaching out to local businesses we thought might want to support us, friends, family, connections, and saying, do you guys have something that you might think is a great reward? I think we were really surprised by what people offered, and it gave us a variety to pull from.
Okay, amazing. So you had lots and lots of on offer. In terms of kind of any from the wider community, were there any on your page that kind of tied that in at all?
So we had some from a local bakery who offered, I guess, vouchers for brownies, which is a nice contrast to the fact that a lot of our other rewards are slightly sports focused. So that was that went very, very quickly, actually.
Amazing. And in terms of if you were kind of to do this again, is there anything in particular that you perhaps would change?
Yeah, I think we did it a little bit. I think we would probably ensure that we'd drummed up a significant amount of support and financial giving at the beginning, almost 20% to 30%, because we really noticed a difference that actually having money on the campaign makes in driving other people to give, it actually had a really positive impact. So I think that's one thing we'd do. And then actually what really surprised us was Instagram over Twitter. So we actually, when we looked at the analytics at the end of it, Twitter was an incredibly effective way of driving supporters to the page, whereas Instagram didn't have as much follow through, which was an interesting takeaway.
Amazing. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Chrissy. I'm going to bring Chloe back on if she's there, because we've had lots of questions from our audience members. Chloe, hi, there you are. Amazing. So some questions for you, Chloe. Rewards wise, we've got a question for Beryl. Rewards, if wine was worth £6, what would the donation aimed at be?
Okay, so like how much should you price it on?
Yeah, I think Beryl is talking about price points for different types of rewards.
So the aim of a reward is to encourage more pledges and pledges from outside your network. So if you've got a £6 bottle of wine, I would put it on a little bit cheaper to encourage people to pledge. You know, if I'm completely unassociated to your organisation and I see a £6 bottle of wine for £10, I'm not going to buy it. But if I see a bargain bottle of wine, I'm probably gonna pledge to get that bottle of wine because it is a bargain. So the idea is really to attract additional pledges and be aware that people can choose to add more of a donation to their pledge. So if you've put it up at £5, for example, but I want to support your organisation further, I can then add an additional donation of, I don't know, another £5 if I want to.
Amazing. I think people love a kind of exclusive deal, don't they? Offering something to supporters that's cheaper or a one-off is a really good way of kind of engaging that crowd.
We all love a bargain.
Absolutely. Yeah, who doesn't? Okay, amazing. We've got a question from Beatrice about gift aid. So is gift aid sent directly to the organisation when the campaign closes, or does the organisation have to claim it back through HMRC in the usual way?
Yeah, you'll have to claim it back in the usual way. There's a little button that you can click for each of your awards to determine which ones are gift aidable, if that's a word, and then you'll have to claim it back in the usual way.
Amazing, brilliant. We have a question from Louis. How long is the fund open for? We have a project where we still need planning permission and we may not be ready to start for another 6 months. Okay,
so there is no end date to the fund, but it is a limited amount of money. So I mentioned earlier, I think that we have already pledged £1 million of that extra funding on sports club projects, which is amazing. We've already helped that many people, but we have another £1.5 million, which is great, but it does go on a first come, first served basis. So I would get cracking as soon as possible.
Amazing, brilliant. Question from Johnny. If we raise the first 25%, do we need to have raised that using the full number of funders to get the match funding?
So you need 25%. And at least the amount of supporter numbers. It doesn't have to be exactly 25% from exactly that amount of supporters. As long as you've hit those two criteria, that's when the pledge will be triggered. So you may well have reached 75% of your target, but just hit that supporter numbers, and then the pledge will come on then.
Yeah, perfect. So there's some conditions that you need to kind of keep an eye on and remember.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. So we've got a question from Sarah. Do rewards limit the number of people that can donate? For example, if there are 50 rewards, once they've gone, will people be less likely to donate? And can donations equate to a number of raffle tickets that may win an award to kind of prevent any limitation?
Okay, so you can release more rewards throughout the campaign, and I recommend that you do. It's a great way of bringing back that interest. If you release a new exciting reward and it's a bit of a bargain, it will draw back attention, maybe in that sort of lull in the middle that Chrissy mentioned earlier. It's a really good way of adding some more excitement to your page. If your rewards sell out, you can limit the number available, and they'll go to the bottom, and then you can add more as well.
Amazing, thank you, Chloe. Like you mentioned, that's, I think, a really good way of kind of enticing people back, especially in weeks 2 and 3 that do kind of go a bit quiet. Getting people interested again. You could always add in, different reward, spice things up a little. It's all about the strategy. So we've got a question from Gary. When rewards are satisfied in full, can they be replaced by a new reward? I think we've kind of covered that. The system has a capacity for 30 rewards. So would we be able to kind of refresh them? So I think we've kind of covered that. Absolutely. You can add them. If a reward has sold out and is doing really well and you want to introduce something else, that's great. Alternatively, if a reward, maybe hasn't sold so well, you could perhaps swap that out for something else. So we've got another question here from Sarah. Oh, no, sorry, we've answered Sarah's. Sharon, hi, how do you put the video together? Did you get a company? This is a question for Chrissy. Did you get a company to do it? We're only a small rugby club. What would you suggest? Like, how do we edit it? If Chrissy's there, she is, she's back. It's like magic. Are you able to answer that one for us, Chrissy?
Yeah, sure. I'll be honest, we flew by the seat of our pants a bit. I learned how to video edit over a weekend. I had a friend who's an actor who does it for self-tapes. And I think I messaged lots of friends, like, does anybody know how to video edit? And actually, it was a lot easier than you think. I think most people, if you can actually do it on your phone, try it yourself and you would be surprised.
Amazing. And we've got another question here from James. Can we get a decision from Sport England on whether they will fund the project subject to us reaching the targets before we launch? Knowing we have their commitment or not may make a difference to us when deciding if it's the best funding method for us.
Yes, you can apply in draft mode or when you're live, but you need to make sure that your page is great before you apply, because they will assess your page. And if you've got a great page together, then I recommend you crowdfund regardless of extra funding. Extra funding is fantastic and it certainly will make a huge difference. But crowdfunding is so beneficial regardless of that extra funding. So I recommend you get working on your page, put something great together and raise some money either way.
Absolutely. No, that's really, really good advice, Chloe. Thank you. So we've got another question from Beatrice. Can smaller organisations be successful without staff? For example, having one person as the project manager?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. You can crowdfund whether you're an individual or a whole rugby team. It's absolutely doable. If you are on your own, try and get a few people to come and help you, but they don't need to be staff. Maybe your brother is an excellent accountant and can help you work out your targets, for example. Use the people around you and ask for their input, because they will become advocates for the page as well.
Brilliant. Amazing. We have another question that's just come in from Michael. He says, we've already run a crowdfunding campaign, but the match contribution was unavailable in April. Can we now claim matched funding in the amount raised then?
No, you need to crowdfund again, but please do, and you can apply. If you've already crowdfunded before, hopefully that means you're an expert already, so this time will be much easier.
Perfect. That's a great one. Thank you, Chloe. We've got a question from Stefan. Are the funds available to any sports club?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Yeah, perfect. And Stefan's also asked, can charities apply too?
Yes, as long as you're bringing activity to the community.
Brilliant. Amazing. Well, I think that's all of the questions that have come through to us. So Chloe, can you tell us a little bit more about kind of our next steps and what we need to do next?
Yeah, so hopefully everyone has a better understanding of crowdfunding and the Active Together funds. Next steps is for you to become a bit of an expert yourself. So we've put together this awesome online learning platform. It's specifically designed to help organisations crowdfund for sports. There's 4 sections, 4 courses to the platform. So there's an introduction to crowdfunding, there is one on planning, one on creating, and one on running a successful campaign. So it's really, really useful. It gives you all the tips and tricks you need to run a campaign. So that's where I suggest you go next. And I believe our moderator will post a link to that in the chat box.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you so much, Chloe. That was great. And thank you to Chrissy for joining us as well. So as Chloe mentioned, do please follow the link to the Learn platform and take the next steps in your crowdfunding journey. Thank you everyone for watching and take care.